Okay, so next up is our panel looking at where CTV sits in the planning process. I'm going to ask my two panelists to introduce themselves to kick things off. Patrick, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Thanks, firstly, for having me. Happy to be here to discuss all things CTV. My name is Patrick Zinga. I work at Starcom in an international role as a digital strategy lead. So my job is essentially understanding digital in all its glory and ensuring that our clients have that understanding as well, and they pick the right place to essentially invest their digital budgets.
Liting?
Hi, I'm Liting. I'm the head for audience planning and programmatic for Havas Media Group.
All right. Now, before we kick things off, and I'd like to say that, the prep call we had for this session was one of the most interesting. I've never laughed so much. There's a certain amount of confusion about where CTV sits. Can we kick things off? Actually, just firstly explaining to some people might not know what a planner does. So, Liting, do you want to start by just explaining what you do on a day-to-day basis, how you allocate budgets, that type of thing?
I think it's more about what my team has been doing on a day-to-day basis. So I think in terms of the how do we plan? So we basically, obviously, we are in charge of the programmatic element of the plan. And then, so usually when the team gets brief, and then there's and then the team creates a strategic plan, which looking at online, offline, and then TV, digital, everything, media, all channels together. And then it will get into the TV and digital buys in terms of and then the plans on that element. And then within that, there is a brand and performance elements of the plan. And then when it comes to probably it's a connected TV part of it that will come from the programmatic side and the digital side of the plan.
Yeah. So CTV is a little bit unusual in that it's a little bit video, it's a little bit TV, it's a little bit programmatic, and it's a little bit digital. And often agencies carve those different things up and put them in different buckets. We know that this is causing a certain amount of confusion in terms of it not being entirely clear how this is managed within the owns it, I suppose. Patrick, is that something you've experienced?
Well, I think the lines when it comes to CTV, because it is still relatively new, the lines are quite blurred as it currently stands, especially in the industry as a whole. I don't think this is a agency specific issue. I think across the board, first and foremost, we have an issue deciding who has ownership of VOD, let alone connected TV. The reality really is we don't necessarily know where this sits, and I don't think in the near future we'll ever get to that stage where we have one person who sits in our team as an expert who purely buys CTV, especially now when the scale is actually so small. Maybe that might change once we have that scale. Then, as you'd expect, if scale is significant, then investment needs to be made in developing a team, and it will make sense for agencies to actually put that money into that investment for that specific team that manages CTV. But realistically, as it currently stands, in terms of where it sits, it's whoever has ownership of the media plan. They have to decide: does it sit with programmatic? Does it sit with the TV team? Does it sit with the digital team? From my experience, it's whoever tells a better story, whoever can sell it into the client, that it makes sense for it to sit within their plan in accordance to all of the other elements within that media plan as well.
Yeah, Liting, does that ring true for you? How do you manage it at Havas?
Well, I guess this is no wrong answer for this one, isn't it? So I think it is about whoever tells the best stories, and as Patrick says, that is a very sensible ways of working. I think what we're doing in Havas is that, so currently, because we do have a very established TV team, and then so what they do actually is that they are planning the CTV element of that, and then putting on the plan, and then obviously filling all the information that's required for the plan, and then it gets to the programmatic team, the specialists, and who's actually doing the activation of the activities. So I guess it's a lot of a collaboration and integration between teams, and then I think that is also a better way in the long better ways of working in the longer run, and then because we want to bring all the specialist talent together, and then yeah. So for example, when you created a plan, because connected TV has a slightly different information compared with the traditional TV plan. And then that's where the programmatic planners and then will need to involve and then to provide some of the information at the planning stage. So that is a form of a collaboration in terms of getting the best between teams. So, I mean, it's currently working well for us for the moment. But then I think, as Patrick says, that when it's scaled a bit more, and then that could look a bit different, but then we'll just have to cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, I think one thing that I think people who sit outside of agencies often, when they question, why isn't the agency doing this or why are they doing that? They often forget that, an agency relationship is very much a partnership with a client, and the client has to sign off on most things. Where are clients with CTV? Are they up to speed on it? Do they understand it? Patrick, do you want to maybe give a few examples of where you think clients might be?
Yeah, I think it's confusing, just in general, CTV, because people still see CTV as TV. I think we're overcomplicating things a little bit. There are loads of stats, loads of clients have come to us and said, they've been approached by different media owners who are giving them stats, things like, if we look at 2014, smart TV penetration in the UK alone was at 12%. And now, 5-6 years later, it's above 50%. So clearly there's significant growth here in terms of opportunity. And when you ask and talk to clients, they all want to be innovating. They all want to be doing the next new thing. They all want to push forward and try something new. So I think there's definitely a lot of hype when it comes to CTV at this particular moment in time, but this isn't really backed up by reality. So, people talk about stats, salespeople, especially within this space, talk about stats in terms of the amount of eyeballs that are on smart TV. So they say, this is how much viewership that's actually going on within this particular space. Less people are watching linear TV. I think Samsung came out with the 42% of TV viewers watch less than 2 hours of linear TV a month. But what they're not actually telling us, and what they're not telling our clients, is what does that mean in terms of ad scale? So yes, viewership is increasing. Yes, viewership is great. Yes, there are more smart TVs out there in the market, but what about the opportunities when it comes to ad views? They never talk about how many people are actually watching ads. And I think that's where the confusion essentially lies for most of our clients. And it makes it difficult, I guess, for us to try to leverage what our partners tell us and what we know is actually available on the platform.
How about you, leading in terms of your clients, and also, in terms of the scale? What type of scale are you seeing? Yeah, that'll be interesting to talk about too.
Well, the scale at the moment is quite minimum, both in the demand and also the investment level. It's quite. I mean, I would put it as more of a tactical instead of always on. But then that is very different compared with TV, isn't it? So that's because it is a very interesting topic, that because there is a TV in the connected TV words in a phrase in it, and then it's actually very different from the behavior and then also the capabilities. And then I think the complication at this, or we can say confusion, is caused by maybe I think TV as a very traditional sort of ways of advertising. It's probably one of the oldest ways of advertising, and then that exists so long before digital age, and then so it's just that at the moment, so we're trying to fit the digital capabilities into a TV concept, and then I think that's where a lot of advertisers may find it difficult to sort of process in sort of integrated in the modern concept of the TV, right? So I think it's I think we need other agencies and together with the suppliers, and then need to help to address that. And then because there is a need, because the viewership has gone up for smart TV, and then all this because the technology has evolved, and then so it's almost like inevitable. It's going to develop towards that direction. So what can we do together, and then agencies and the publishers, and then to address this challenge together, and then to make sure that the brands are more clear on where connected TV sits, and then how they are contributing to the overall strategies, and then how it will exist together with TV and linear TV, and then also other video formats, or having also, that doesn't mean that it might have a unique role to play on the plan. So I think there's a lot of questions that need to address that properly.
Yeah. Patrick, what's your feeling particularly in terms of how you would compare CTV to traditional TV or even to online video? What's your how does it compare?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult, just even as a planner, to sort of understand where this sits. I think Leighton pretty much summarized it quite nicely there, that they all have to work well in conjunction with each other when you're looking at the overarching digital channel space. I think typically when people are thinking about planning, your go-to for scale is TV. We still speak to clients this day in terms of broadcast TV, linear TV. It still makes sense. You're still getting mass scale within that particular space. We then went on to online video, which VOD was a part of. And that made sense when you're trying to reach, new audiences, younger audiences that don't necessarily spend a lot of time in TV. And then the position of social platforms is all about engaging, and how do you actually get involved in a conversation or a topic that people are more likely to engage with within that particular space. I think the nature of digital channels, of which connected TV now kind of forms a part of, it's ever developing. It changes at such a fast pace, and it's up to us, the planners or the advertising practitioners. It's up to us to keep up. And it's our job to assess what all of these opportunities are, how they work well together, and what we consider to be, I guess, the best option for our client, depending on what their objectives are. I think in terms of CTV and where it sits, that's still up for discussion, and it's really dependent on what's, like I said before, what's the best story to tell in terms of how we're trying to engage with our audiences. Because at the end of the day, the buck starts and ends with audiences. What are people actually doing within the space? How are they consuming media? And what's the best platform for us to tell our brand stories?
Yeah, and is there any what's the main hurdle in terms of CTV taking its place as a permanent fixture on every plan? Pretty much in the same way broadcast TV does today. What does CTV have to do in order to get to that point? Is there any one main barrier? Leighton, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, I think there's quite a few things that we need to consider. So first is the technology. So that needs to evolve together with pick up the pace in terms of how TV inventories open up for like programmatic, and then all this and then together. So I mean, I think that it's more difficult here because obviously GDPR, and then also the data, and then the how much that the broadcasters are willing to share. And then we see a lot of maybe a chance that, and then a lot of the broadcasters that they will have the technology on their own, but then how should we how will we connect them together to provide that that reach for the overall audiences? And then that is going to bring on the questions about, okay, that's how do we measure more effectiveness, and then how do we measure the performance? And then yes, we have a reach as a overall KPI, but then the effectiveness, and then now moving into how is that going to contribute towards the performance, and then media consumption as well. So I think there's a lot of question need to answer, and then also the buying model, like the pricing. So I think Patrick just mentioned about the viewership and then compare with the ad viewership as well. So are we and then, for example, we have this case that we recently come across, which is that so we basically buying the CTV ads in a CPM model, but then the ads was not playing until it's being clicked on. And then I was like, well, then that isn't, how is that different from a standard display banner? So I think this needs to be considered like prior to any of the plans and the format, and then also what's the buying model, and then is it actually making sense? So these are the things that because in that case that so we could the advertisers could potentially just paying on the impression, but then without the viewers and then being able to view the actual ads. So obviously we spotted that, and then but then I think that was one of the learnings that we actually wanted to share as well.
Yeah, that the measurement issue is something that's been a recurring theme over the years at our events. I think on the digital side, you've got people who can do lots of very granular things, but because they weren't using things like panels, the fact that, in the past, maybe display budgets were often, in very high percentages, not seen by anyone. Well, whereas on the flip side, the digital people would often criticize the TV world for using, seemingly primitive panel-based measurements and run it down. I mean, obviously CTV is it's sort of coming in between these two worlds. For you, Patrick, is the measurement problem, how big is the measurement problem for CTV today, do you think?
It's a large barrier. It's probably one of the largest barriers, because I think a lot of clients want proof points. Before they go live with something, they want to see that it's tried, it's tested, it works more than anything else. Like Leighton was saying, if we go live with something and actually when we go live we realize there are loads of issues, loads of problems, tags aren't tracking correctly, what we assume was a CPM buy actually is more similar to a CPC buy, that's where the issue essentially lies. So I completely agree with Leighton that there needs to be better targeting capabilities within the platform, and better measurement. It needs to be on board with how we use Facebook or we use Google in regards to audience tracking, audience targeting, and then proving the effectiveness of what you're doing within CTV. Because currently right now it still sits within that TV space and it isn't really separated when it comes to measurement from an econometrics perspective. It's very difficult to go back to the clients and say, because you added the additional CTV tactical element here, that has increased your revenue or your sales or your goals, whatever that was for your business, by X%. So until measurement is really up there amongst some of the other channels that we currently have, it is seemingly more and more difficult to put CTV on the plan. Unless, again, you go forward to your client and say, this is new, this is exciting, it's shiny, let's try it out. And you have, we always have clients that are eager to test new things and seeing how they sort of work moving forward. So there's always an opportunity, there's always an option, because like I said, viewership is up, there's a lot of money to be made when it comes to eyeballs, because we're media, we work in media, we go where people go, we're a people first industry, so where we're seeing huge consumption is definitely where we're probably going to invest in the future, but we need to make sure that we have the right measurement and the right targeting capabilities in place before significant investment is actually placed in.
Yeah. So I'm conscious that we've been talking about a lot of negative, probably the downsides. So to finish on a positive note, I mean, looking to the future, how do we improve this so that the market does develop and that it becomes something that's of real value to your clients? Leighton, do you want to inspire our audience?
Well, no, I think I'm not. I'm definitely not saying something that that's new to everyone. And then I think that it's great that we know what's the challenges, right? And then that's how we address it. And then that's where we turn into the opportunities. And then so we know this up front, and then we know that these are the things that we need to address before the scale. And then I think it's good that some brands and then obviously some advertisers are more willing to test and then for this space, which is great because the learnings that we can get from those, even the tactical activities, is valuable. And then these are the ones that is going to help us to address it and then to prepare when we need to scale. So I think because ultimately we are moving into the smart world, like smart world,
Yeah.
and then the connected TV does provide this sort of shared experience and as a family, and then just like the traditional TV. So I think the opportunities there, I think it's just for us to be more adapted and then push the technology and then together with the suppliers and the publishers, and then to make it happen. And then I think it is, I think the same way that we did for, programmatic about, over 10 years ago. So all the changes, we'll get there, certainly. But it's just that we are just in the sort of the learning journey at time.
Well, I'm inspired. Patrick, have you got a positive note for everyone?
Yes, completely agree. We're in that development mode. But I'm going to go back to how we see connected TV within this actual space, and my honest opinion is that we need to continue understanding media from a consumer's point of view when these new technologies come into place. And what we should be doing is simplifying that view to that of the consumer. So, as a customer, I see and define TV as exactly that. It's a TV screen. I don't care about how people in marketing or people in agency define all of the different elements, because customers don't know what BVOD is, SVOD, CTV. All the customer sees in front of them is, I want to watch Bake Off on channel 4. They might be watching it on 4OD, but in their minds, in their opinion, this is channel 4, and this is how I've always sort of watched this. And I think we're definitely in that stage of development. We're getting there. The pace has definitely been picked up. Because we were quite slow in getting TV to be a bit more digital and digitized, and getting some of our partners alongside that journey. I think we're definitely getting there. For example, Planet V by ITV, it's us moving towards the right direction. BritBox, that collaboration of different channels working, different broadcast channels, competitors in the past working together to come up with a solution that makes sense from an advertising perspective. I think what none of us want, what no one wants, is for another player to come into this particular space, like your Googles or your Facebooks of the world, and completely take over because they have those digital capabilities already in place. We don't need to put more money into those particular partners. But what we want to do, especially in agency world, from the people that I've spoken to, not just in my agency, but other agencies as well, is help these partners that we currently have develop their product and make it better. So we go to our clients and sell on those products, because like I said, there's definitely value in connected TV moving forward.
Okay, to find that round off, I would like to say thank you very much to you both. I've been looking forward to doing this panel all week, and yeah, neither of you disappointed in the slightest. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Nice.